Bonjour, everyone. Hi, this is Neshi Lokotz. Welcome to Star Nations Radio Network, and you are watching Star Nations Communications from Home. It's a special edition. It's Sunday. It's not Tuesday night. It's Sunday afternoon here in the United States, anyway. We're doing a special series on caring for elderly parents, and so we chose Sundays to do that. Basically, so that me and my co-host could actually be live and at a decent time for him because he's across the pond in the UK. So, and my co-host is, got to give him a live mic. Hi, Nellie.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, it is I.
Well, welcome to Sunday afternoon Star Nations Communications from Home. And if you're watching anywhere in the UK or in that side of the world, it is good evening. You're watching Star Nations Communications from Home. And Nellie, guess what we're going to do?
What are we going to do?
We're going to like and share.
Okay, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, good plan. So those that are joining us, if you wouldn't mind doing that as well, we would appreciate it, is to like and share the show. And why we do that is because one, it's easier to find us. Let me turn down my sound on my phone so we don't get feedback. Facebook and their algorithms, they do some strange things sometimes, and we don't even really understand it. It's like one of those nebulous things out there. But we do know that when we like a show, when we share it, and when we make comments, it helps to help other people to help find us easier. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, I am using my phone. I'm going to do that. I'm sharing it to the closed group for Star Nations, and just letting them know, a reminder that we're live streaming right now. And making sure I'm spelling correctly. And please join us. And posting. I used to share it to my timeline, and then I realized that not everybody in the community would see it on my timeline. But if I posted it to the closed group, then more people in the community was going to see it. And we have, hi, Pam. Hi, Pam. Thanks for joining us. So
Hello.
glad you're here. Yeah. I just met Pam in person. I think it was it late last week? I lose track of time. It's kind of like, what day is it? What's the date?
I work on it today, and that's, if I can. I sometimes think I know, I remember what day it is, and sometimes I get up for work on the wrong day.
Yeah, I've done that. I mean, because my office is here at home. I don't have far to go. My office is downstairs, but still, sometimes, I forget what day it is, and it's usually surrounding Mom, because she's the one who starts out the day for me. And so lots of times, I'll start coming down the stairs and realize, it's shower day. It gets hot in that bathroom. I can't wear long sleeves in there. So I have to run back upstairs and put different clothes on because it's shower day. And so those kinds of things. So, but for our audience, this special Star Nations Communications from Home is about caring for the elderly parent or parents. And Nellie and I, we started this show last month, and it was really based on a conversation that we had. Oh gosh, I think it was probably in November, maybe something like that. I don't know if you remember that. We were working on something for the shows, for your show from Start to Stone, and your mom was ringing you because she needed something. And I kept I said, what is that sound? And you said, oh, it's just my mom. She needs something. And you said, I need to take a break to go check on her. And I said, you know what? It's a great time because I have to go check on my mom and take her 3:00 snack. And before that, I don't think you and I had ever really talked about being a primary caregiver of an elderly parent.
No, not until that moment.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was like this for you, but for me, it was like, oh, it's somebody who actually understands that I have to get up and go do something for another person in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah. It's unless you're talking to somebody that is either doing it or has done it in the past.
Yes.
It's not truly understood that you're constantly listening out for that call.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're in the house, you're always on standby. That's the word. Yes.
Standby. Even down here, because in the location that I'm at in my office is, Mom is upstairs on the main floor, but her room is just kind of kitty corner from me, but upstairs. So I can hear just about everything that's going on in there. I can't actually hear her TV, but when she gets up and starts moving around, I can kind of hear it. And I usually have a monitor with me. And so many times that's the one that I will hear the most from when she's literally talking to me. It's usually about politics of some sort. But what I listen for is the fall. And she's only fallen a couple of times, but that's what I'm tuned to is, if that would happen. And so our audience, when you have someone like us on, if we have to get up and say, I really need to be right back, I need to really go check on this, especially when I'm the only one in the house with my mom. Sometimes Paul's here and he would check on her, but one of those things. So today's topic about caring for the elderly parent is about the support system around that parent. And when you talk about that, you also have to talk about the support system that is encompassing the primary caregiver, which in our case it's you and me.
You and I, yes.
Yes. And Pam has a question for us. I'm going to put it up here. She says, what have each of you done today just for you?
Yeah, we're both doing this. Yeah, and then we scratch our heads and I had coffee. I also had coffee, and coffee is just for me. Mum doesn't like coffee. I had coffee. There we go.
Okay. Well, let me think. This is something I do every morning, or just about every morning, is I like to use a deck of cards, divination cards. It's the Sweat Lodge cards. And I usually pull a card every morning just to check in, what kind of energy do I need to know about for today? Mm-hmm. And if it's something I can share, then I share it through Instagram or something like that. But that card is usually just for me. And many times it's, I get multiple cards. And so a little bit of a card reading in the morning. Meditation wise, I still meditate, but it's not the way I did it 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was like, I'm going to go up and do a meditation, and it didn't really matter how long I was in there because I was the only one here. As long as my dog was sleeping and was taken care of, that was no big deal. But my meditations these days are really with a cup of tea. I sit in my recliner for a few minutes. And that's usually just for me, sitting quietly, sometimes with my eyes closed. Now, the thing is, Mervyn, the thing is that when I sit and I'm quiet like that, chances are I'm going to fall asleep. Because that's the other thing I think that goes along with the caring of the elderly parent is that you do have lack of sleep. I don't know. Do you find that to be true?
Very much so. I mean, I went part-time. I drive a truck for a living, and it's my job is I'm home every night anyway, so it's not long distance. It's just long days.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of years ago, it got to a point where I just couldn't physically do everything I have to do here and take care of mum and drive a truck for 5 or 6 days a week.
Right.
So I asked us, and the people at work were understanding enough, and I asked, can I go part-time? This is the reason why. And they understood, and they said, yeah. So I cut down to 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought to myself, right, that's good. I'm not going to be having to get up at 3:30 for 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Or, that's what I thought. And I was slightly wrong about that, because I would say 90% of the time, if I'm on the days that I work, I'm up at 3:30. Mum generally, I always check, or she's ringing for me anyway. The other 4 days, 90% of the time, she's ringing for me at some point in the night, so she needs me. That's fine. For myself, I kind of just got used to the not sleeping, and just don't worry about it, really.
Right.
Sometimes I have a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes that nap's in the truck.
Not when you're driving, though.
No, I've always stopped.
I have to say that, yeah, I was never a morning person. I still am not. I get a second wind around 9:30 or so, and I've always been. That's when I get really kind of creative. That's. But since Mom's been here with us, and I can't say that when she first moved in, almost 6 years ago, the first couple of years she was pretty independent. I mean, she got up and she made her own breakfast. She basically took care of herself. The only thing that she needed was, like for me to make supper, to do her laundry, but she still wanted to do her own ironing, that kind of thing. And so she was pretty independent for the first couple of years. But as time progressed, we get more and more dependent, because there's less and less that she can do on her own independently. And so, yeah, you just kind of get used to the 5 or 6 hours of sleep. You take a nap when you can. That's what my meditations turned into. I stopped beating myself up because I fell asleep during a meditation, and that's not being, having good self-discipline, and that's what I used to be all about, It's like, okay, we're going to do a meditation and self-discipline. You're going to stay awake. Well, what I just started doing was taking a nap instead of beating myself up. All right, we were going to meditate for 20 minutes. Now we're going to take a nap for 20 minutes. So
perhaps it's more of it's a deep meditation. You only think you're having a nap.
And the thing is I laugh. It's not even 20 minutes. You got to be honest. If you're sleeping and you're lack of sleep and you've got things covered and you set your alarm, you know that you're going to be out for at least an hour, 45 minutes. Yeah. At least.
Yeah. I did that the other day. I think it was Friday. Yeah, Friday's a work day. And I pulled over for my break on the way back to the yard, and I set my alarm, got myself into my comfy position, and put my head back, and I was out like a light. And I know I overslept. So yeah, it does happen.
Well, and the reason why we're even sharing this and talking about this piece is because you can only go so long keeping up that pace before you need a break, right? And as Pat would be, Pam in the chat room is saying, she says true self-care is really important. And, and I think intellectually we understand that. You cannot help others if you don't fill your own tank. And, we're here to say that is absolutely true, because we've both been on both sides of that equation, where we've had enough reserves in our tank to be able to do for other people in that way. And we've also been depleted in trying to continue to do. And I would rather be on the full side
Yes.
of the equation, yeah. And the thing is that, and like I said, I met Pam, and she and I had a nice chat a few days ago. And so she knows, because she's taken care of both her parents. And so she knows firsthand what we're talking about. And that's why she's saying true self-care is very important. So let's get into this piece, because it's not an easy piece to talk about. When I was doing the research for caregivers of elderly parents and their support system, I looked at like 5 different articles, and I shared the one that I thought was the best of the 5. And it was still good. It's just, and that heavy sigh is about knowing what works intellectually. And the flip side of that is the reality of how it actually gets played out.
And they are completely different.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Mervyn. When your mom came to visit to live with you,
mm-hmm.
How did that decision get made? Was it just a foregone conclusion, or was there discussion around that?
No. I mean, my story is slightly different. In the this would have been I don't even know now how long ago. 10 years, more maybe. Long story short, the ending of one relationship was the catalyst for it all, because I'd helped with the care of her mother, and I could see how my mum was needing more and more. That's not quite. She was pretty okay at that point, within certain parameters, but after my partner's mother passed away, I was still intent on taking care of mine as much as possible within reason, and that wasn't looked on particularly favourably, shall we say. And so that relationship ended, and I decided that the best option for myself at the time, and for Mum long term, was for me to come back and live in the house I grew up in. So that's what I did. Moved back here, and that was just the end. That was the one story in the beginning of this one. And over time, Mum her health has declined, and as she's got older, she's got less and less physically able. So we're in the every day's more intense than the day before. And gradually you don't notice it quite so much until you actually think about when you look back on how things were. So it wasn't really a discussion point with any of the family. It was what needed to be done, and therefore it was done.
Mm-hmm.
That was just how it was.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and in my situation, my dad had walked on. He passed away in 2010, and so Mom lived in assisted living. She wanted to move back to a city that she was more familiar with, and so we moved her. She wanted to go back to Baraboo, Wisconsin, which is where I was born, and she spent 18 months there in assisted living. No, I'm sorry, independent living. And she owned her own house, and at one point she said to me, this is ridiculous. I have a house. Why am I paying rent someplace? And so she said she decided she was going to move back to the city that my older brother lives in and his family, where her house was. And she and I were sitting at her dinette table, and we were having tea. I had been down there for like a weekend visit, and I said, how many times do you want to move? Because it's okay if you want to move there. We'll move you there. But eventually, you're going to be living with me. I'm the only daughter in a Native American cultured home, and so it's kind of one of those givens, right? This is what we believe in. And I said, eventually you're going to be with me. So rather than going back to your house, what do you think about moving in with me and my husband? And I said, think about it. Think about it. And she made the decision to, yes, she would do that. She sat and talked with Paul and I about it. And seeing just previous to that conversation, I had a conversation with two of my brothers. I have four brothers. One passed away when he was 51, and the other one lives like 4 hours away, and he's a truck driver, and it's really hard to get a hold of him. And so the two older brothers came, and we sat and told them about the conversation I had with Mom, and how do you guys feel about that? And I said, I can't do this by myself. I don't want to do it by myself. And so we had the conversation, and basically they said, sure, yep, we get it. We understand. Whatever you need, let us know. And I thought we were all on the same page, but we weren't. I mean, down the road, I realized that it was just hard for them to be here. It was hard for them to see our mother older and less capable, right? Mm-hmm. And so they have their own stuff they have to work through. And that was the other thing that I didn't realize at the time, is that we all have our relationship with this one person called Mom. And those relationships she has with her other children are different than what she has with me. And so there's all this underlying issues and problems that never got worked out, were never talked about, never healed. And so you can't expect somebody to come and be a respite caregiver when they don't get along with her. When there's I don't want to call it animosity, but there's hard feelings there.
Yeah.
And so that's not up to me to work out. That's not mine.
That's not your job.
That's not my job. But it makes getting people to come in to help out harder. And then we get into the negotiation stuff. which I've gotten to the point where I don't really like.
Mm.
And so, you know, when I recognized that, I had to sit with that for a little while and realize that that's completely out of my control. Because if I try to control that,
You can't control it.
Can't. And I don't know if you've ever run into that. And I'm sure our audience, you know, and those people who will watch the recorded show, you know, I'm sure that they could probably relate to some aspect of that. Even if they okay, now this is being honest. Even if that there's a relationship with our mother is okay, there's the relationship between me and a brother or me and their wife. And so then there's things that come up that we have to deal with on that end that I didn't even know existed until we were put into each other's sphere of, you know, on a more regular basis. And so having to work those things out. And so I don't know, Mervyn, do you see that in your experience, that when we say this isn't a life altering, well, it's a change for us. It's a change, but it's life altering all the way around.
Completely for everybody. For myself, I saw right at the earliest point that, perhaps not consciously to begin with, but later on, I really understood what a gift it has been for me to take care of Mum.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taught me more about so much, and life in general, and people, and psychology, and everything than the previous 40 odd years ever did. This, and you know, I am grateful for it. I really am. But and it, you know, it's had led on to other things, you know, and it's a challenge. I mean, it's a huge challenge. And like we said last time, you know, it teaches you more about who you are than anything else ever will.
Yes.
But when it comes to family and both your relationship with them and Mum's relationship with them, in some ways I'm lucky, because my eldest sister, when I say I'm off to America and this is when I'm going, then she will organise herself and she won't let me down.
Yeah.
But equally, you have to say, this is when I'm going, because if you don't, the ultimate word ultimatum is wrong. If you don't state that this is what is happening and there is no other option, then it can become a difficult negotiation to manage, because she has her own life and her own children, and she's running around after them most of the time, even though they're all grown up with their own children. And she's got grandchildren now, so it's you know, she's busy herself. So my other sister lives in Spain, and don't tell anybody, but my youngest sister and Mum don't really get on that well. So, but don't say anything. Shh, it's our secret. So she has taken over a time or two, and on both occasions it was, don't ask her again. Mum said, don't ask her again.
Oh
So
my gosh. I know.
there's always going to be difficulties somewhere
Yeah.
along the line.
Yep.
But the key point is not to feel guilty about having that time of your own. Even as much as I know Mum finds it really difficult when I'm not here in the house, or she knows I'm not coming home from work at a particular time,
Yep.
because I'm away, she does find that really, really difficult. Not that she'd ever say, please don't go, I don't want you to go, even though I can see it in her face.
Yes.
She wouldn't say it, and she would hate to think that I actually know what she's thinking. You do need to find a way to not feel guilty about it.
That's right. That's right.
Because
And it's a hard thing to do.
yeah,
It really
because
is.
the other option is not to go and not to do anything and just stay here, which would ultimately be worse, because when I visited Tracy and hung out with Tracy and had awesome, adventures over in the States, I come back the better for it. Tracy's helped me and taught me lots of things in lots of different ways that I hadn't thought of. She's helped me up, and because of her, it's helped me take care of Mum more effectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the advice she's given me has been just incredible, really. It really has.
Yeah. That not feeling guilty about it. When I do get a chance, I don't feel guilty one bit. But there is that transition piece that it takes me a good couple of days before I can actually say that I am fully present and relaxed, and it takes a little time because you're mentally, emotionally, physically, you're still connected because you just left, and then you're wondering, God, I hope they showed up by, and then it's like, you know what, I got to stop. They're grown people. They said they're going to be there. They'll be there. And that sort of thing. So I remember, and it wasn't too long ago, it was last year actually, beginning of so it's been almost exactly a year. I would say probably a little bit longer, by a couple months, where it seemed like no matter what direction I turned in for assistance or help, it was like the door closed. It's like I couldn't find someone to actually do the respite. Either if there were paid people, trying to get them to come in a couple of days to spend time with Mom so that they would have some sort of relationship, that Mom would actually kind of know them instead of having a stranger come in, and finding people weren't very responsible. And I was trying not to be too picky, but come on, when somebody leaves the burner on that gas stove, it's like when you come home and they're not around, that's not a good thing. Or another person, I was gone and they brought their boyfriend over. It was like, and then this is a person in their late 30s, early 40s. I never met the man. I don't even know what he looks like today. Never met him. And so that was also a deal breaker. I don't mind that she had somebody here, but I would have liked to meet the person beforehand. It's a safety issue, I think. So anyway, I remember getting to the point where I I had to admit to myself that I had to be here, and that the chances of me getting help coming in was pretty slim. And I have to tell you, that was really hard, really, because I am a very independent person. I don't have kids, so I'm used to being able to pick up and go when I want. So it was hard. It was hard. But I also found out that a lot about myself, number one, and number two, I really got to know exactly who it was who supports me truly.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. Yeah. And I love them for it, and our relationship that I have with each one of these people has completely changed. It has deepened, and it's a good thing. It's a really good thing, and I try to spend more time on that and nurturing that and feeling good about that than dwelling on the people who said they were going to be here and couldn't.
Yeah.
The people who said, "Oh, you're going to be so sick of me. I'll be at your front door all the time." Never showed up.
They never show up. That never happens.
No. And for whatever reason, I'm sure that they have their own issues that they're working out, that they're dealing with. But in the moment, and then dealing with it, you don't really think about that right away.
No.
So how did you? Well, you were kind of already knew that you were committed, that you were it.
I was it. Yeah. I consciously, I can't say that I said to myself, well, there's nothing else to be done. This is it. I am here. No, this is going to be for the long run.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt natural to me that I am here, therefore I am going to do. And from that point on, I have been taking care of things here. Slowly, I've been getting better at it. There's always something new to learn. There's always something new. There's always a way to get better at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always hope that I am getting better at it.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm very aware of and have been from the beginning, and this is one piece that it's kind of hard to look at and be honest with yourself about, and that is not to be so controlling of the situation that you can't have other people come in because they're going to disturb the universe.
Oh yeah.
Disturb how things get done, the routine and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. And I had to look at that because this is our home. It's not a facility. Yeah. And so when people come in to help, whether they're family or paid people to come in, I do give them a structure. They have to know when mom needs her snacks only because of her glucose level.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an outline. It's a written outline, times and suggestions of what kind of snacks that she would prefer, or otherwise just ask her. She'll tell you. She'll tell you what she wants, right? And so I had a sister-in-law, and she didn't tell me to my face, but she was basically, saying, "You're too controlling. we don't need this. We're just, well, I don't know what's going on if I'm not here. If they're going to do their own thing and set aside the piece of paper and everything works out, yay.
Yeah.
Yay. I was just trying to be helpful, but I had to look at it from their point of view, and say, okay, if I were the person coming in, would I find that too structured?
Yeah, I know, I can see what you're saying. I mean, if somebody's coming in who isn't used to what's how life runs in your house, then from my perspective, if you gave me a piece of paper, I would say, thank you very much. This is extremely helpful, because you have a set of instructions that you can work from. I've done similar for my sister. Mum likes this, mum likes that. When this happens, you do this. This is how you work our washing machine. This is how you work our dryer, and so on and so forth. So, because I know everything else, everything at her house is completely different.
Yeah.
So I give her that and hope that the house is still standing when I get home. Essentially, it generally is, but then I have to put everything back in its proper place, which is
yeah, that's true, because you go to reach for something and it's not there, and you think, okay, if I were the spatula, where would I be now? Not that I only have one, but even with that, I put away certain things that I will probably end up donating somewhere else. But when you have expensive cookware, and you know that you shouldn't be using metal on the pan, so I just took everything out that they can't use with that particular one, and just put the wooden spoons in, and the rubber stuff, the rubber spatulas, and that kind of thing. And that way, it's no big deal. They just use what's ever in there. But if I had the other things in there, and they end up using, something metal and scratches the finish, then I'm the one that's mad. But what am I angry about? I put it in there. They may not even know anything about that kind of cookware, right?
Yeah.
So, we do have to be flexible. We do have to understand that not everybody is going to know all those little idiosyncrasies. And that's one of the things I think that, I don't know, I want to say this, and you might not agree with me, but I think in the long run, when we look at the bigger picture, the people are meant to be in the certain positions that they're in, and doing certain things that they're supposed to be doing for this person that we call a parent. That we're put in. We say we're going to do certain things. Like I said, I would be that she would live here, which puts me into the primary caregiver position, right? Out of all my siblings, I'm probably the one who is more patient. I'm the one that has a better relationship. Well, my mom and I have talked and worked things out where we have an adult relationship. No, this has happened long before she even moved in, but we worked on that. So I think that, if we're working from our strengths, and if we gravitate to that, we're going to be okay. I know that two of my brothers, they couldn't be here because they don't do well emotionally with people who are preparing to cross over.
Minnie's
in the house. Hi, Minnie.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. I agree completely, but you can say it, I would say it far more succinctly, which is
Yeah.
a good word. Write that down.
Okay.
Um,
Distinctly.
by just saying that the one who can does.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. If you're doing it, it's because you can. If you're the carer, it's because you are the carer. Everybody else is running their own lives as best they can. And don't expect a great deal of help because they're not you.
Yeah.
And they don't have it. I know for a fact neither of my sisters could take care of mum in the same way that I do. Regardless of the experience that I've got with her, I know that they don't have the capacity for that level of taking care of her.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, they just don't have it. It's not part of their makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my eldest sister, the one that does come when I'm not here,
Mm-hmm.
she can muddle through while I'm away, and there's a big sigh of relief when I get back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so the one who can does
Yeah.
because you're made that way.
Right. Right. It's a strength. It's using your gifts, your talents, your experiences. It all comes into play, and it's not to say that there's probably some soul contract issues going on. There's also maybe karmic debt stuff going on, whether it's between the caregiver and the parent, or the parent and the other or the other children. There's other things at play that are you don't have control over. You just don't. Um, the other thing, when it comes to the support system around the elderly parent, and this can be kind of contentious, I think, is that is to the treatment of the elderly parent as an adult, not a child.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, when you want to do everything for this elderly parent who's still capable of doing some things on their own, and they may have the ability to still make decisions on their own. Um, Whatever their capacity is as an adult is to be able to meet them where they're at. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And reminding myself that it would be easier, faster if I just made the decision and just did it.
Yeah.
You don't hurry an elderly person. You just don't. There's no hurry there. If you have to be someplace at a certain time, like 2:00 for a show, you don't start getting things ready for that elderly parent at 1:30.
No.
Do that. You're
No.
just going to be a bundle of nerves by the time 2:00 rolls around, if you
Yeah.
make it there.
If you when you get into the groove, you've got that stuff ready the day before. The day before. That's when you need to have everything in place, and then start getting ready some point in the morning.
Yes. Hair got done at 10:30 this morning.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And the other thing is that I have to keep in mind, and it's hard to translate this to someone else, is that mom is a 98-year-old woman, an adult woman who has raised 5 kids, took care of her own parents, ran a household. She comes with a lot of experience and a lot of life lessons, and if you turn around and treat her like she's 9, there's going to be problems.
Oh, very much so. Yes. I mean, I know when we've got family visiting, and I'm, running back and forth, doing what I've got to do for mum and everything, and we've got family visiting, or, and we're all in the front room with mum, it doesn't matter how many people are there. Everybody knows exactly who is in charge in that room. Everybody. You walk into, I mean, mum, for all her issues, all her health problems, regardless, doesn't matter how old she is, she really is the one person in that room. She still has the matriarchal position. Mm-hmm. What she says does go. I mean, talking about life experience, if I'm not sure of something, I'll ask mum. I still will do this. Mm-hmm. And that works both ways, because she appreciates being having her advice asked.
Yes.
Of her.
Yes.
Yeah. So that she's still involved in what I'm doing.
Yes.
So and that's a good thing to do. It's a good place to put yourself, to say, I might be doing all of this, but your opinion is still important to me.
Right. And I think that there's a fine line, though. There is a fine line. And, and I have to admit, I kind of cringe when I hear relatives, her grandchildren, or my siblings sharing stuff with my mom that is so drama laden, the gossip kind of stuff, or who's doing what to who, and it gets her upset, and then she tries to help them solve it. And they really don't want her opinion or to solve it. It's the drama.
Yeah, they just want to share the drama. Yeah. If any of mine try to do that, she just tells them to stop being so stupid. she's got no time for drama. If you're being stupid, then that's your fault.
I wish my mom did that, but no, my mom is still. I don't know if you ever, because I'm not a parent, so I can't even pretend that I understand this piece. But I think that watching her is that once a parent, always a parent. So if you see one of your children, no matter what their age, whether it's her own child or grandchild or great grandchild or great grandchild, having problems or challenges, that she wants to go in and be the mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And okay. Like, again, there's no controlling that. I mean, if she's going to say or do, then she's going to say or do. Minnie has a good point here. I just want to point this out. So much like a parent on the other end, letting the child have their independence. Caregiving, so much like parenting, but rolling the other way.
Sort of, but it's different. It, you're not parenting. it's a completely different circumstance.
Yeah.
We might be doing the physical work of taking care of anybody's needs, but you're not parenting them, you're not teaching them. They're still going to be teaching you somewhere down the line, but you don't necessarily have to, you're not preparing them for growing up, leaving home. You know, it is turned around,
Mm-hmm.
but it's completely different to parenting. You're preparing for other events in
Right.
some ways.
Right. Yes. And I have to agree with you because it depends on what your definition is of parenting. I think it depends on the ability of your elderly parent on where they're at mentally, where they're at physically, and where they're at spiritually. You may be doing more for that parent if they have, say, dementia, early stages of dementia or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, remembering how to tie a shoe or get rid of the tie shoes altogether and just do slip-ons.
Yeah.
You know, and doing those kinds of things. It's different. I have to agree with you that we're not raising somebody to be an independent adult, right? We have an adult who went from being independent to being dependent and everything that involves with them. It's so hard to watch them inch by inch give up their independence. Inch by inch, realizing my material possessions have dwindled down to 2 rooms when I had a whole house.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Watching the transitions that they're going through when they are making that realization that they're preparing for their death, they're walking on, they're leaving. And so what we're doing is we're actually helping them to prepare for that. Now, hopefully we are grounded and centered enough to help them with that and to be able to talk about those hard issues. I'm the one that always had to talk to our parents about the hard things. Always. Even when I was a kid, they sent me in. My brothers, you go do it. They won't yell at you. And so, you know, having to have that talk about why there's so many spirits and how to deal with those spirits that are here, what to do, what not to do, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's a much different, I don't even want to call it guidance. Is there a word for it?
No,
Is there a vocabulary word for that?
not that I know of, but when you talk about it with anybody in the same position, you kind of understand exactly what they're saying without an adequate vocabulary.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because of the world that we chose to live our lifestyle through, whether it's the Native American, whether it's the pagan, whether it's use of crystals or oils or whatever it is, those are our tools to help them do what they're going to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
doing what they're doing, right? Trying to make it more comfortable for them. We're not doing it for them, or we try not to.
Yeah.
We try not to. You know, reality is that there's moments when we do it for them. It's like, you know, my mom, when she gives tobacco, even though we have the tobacco in a place that was easy for her to get to and get whenever she wanted it, whenever she needed to. Now she can't do it. So I have to actually get it out for her. And there's, depending on what she's doing with the tobacco, sometimes she will add everybody in the family's name. And now she is losing track of who has got what name. And so we have it listed out. So I get the list out for her. I leave her alone to do whatever she needs to do with it, but she can't go outside to give the tobacco anymore. So I do that for her. And the first time I did that for her, it was hard on her. Mm. You know, it was one of those pieces that that she had to relinquish, to let go. So yeah, Minnie, that sounds more like it. She's asking, are you holding space for their experience? That's closer to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's closer to it. I took some notes in that handout, or that article that I shared with everybody on the closed group. I put down, it's a real emotional ride. It truly is. Yeah, I'm just making sure. They had some really good information in there. One of the things that they talked about was gaining tips for gaining the support of your siblings. And their number one was accept your siblings for who they are. Well, that's true. I think that when, at least for me, I had to look at what the reality was, what it is. It's not this illusion that, that they were going to each take a weekend a month, and I would have, 2 or 3 weekends off, and I would only have to work really with mom, be here with her, maybe 1 or 2 weekends out of the month and be here all week, but have weekends off. That was an illusion. So I think we talked about that, is accepting your siblings where they're at. And that could be kind of hard. It was for me at the beginning, because I had to let go of that illusion.
I didn't have that illusion.
You're lucky. You lucky duck.
It was, the reality was fairly obvious. Mm-hmm. Most of us, whether we're taking care of one or both parents, the reality is that we're pretty much in this. If we've got a partner in here as well, then we've got some support mm-hmm. regularly. Yeah. But the reality is that if we're generally in this on our own, mm-hmm. Sometimes we can get social care help, and sometimes we can't. Most of the time, family, siblings, or other family members are pretty much, running their own lives as mm-hmm. best they can. Mm-hmm. And, it's a matter of just accepting it, that this is our job. This is, for me, this is my job. This is my place. Mm-hmm. It's not always the easiest thing to say, and it's not always the easiest thing to accept. There are times when I just would joyfully love to jet off here, there, and everywhere, just to, whenever I the fancy took me, but that's not reality.
Mhm.
So, it's a matter of just saying, here we go, this is it, this is me.
Yep.
But when I do get that chance, then those experiences do carry me along until the next chance. But
Yeah.
also, there's what I was going to mention earlier was the adventures that you do have when you're jetting off to the likes of America, and Tracy's taking me around Michigan and having seeing the sights and
Yeah. Yeah.
everything. Bringing that back and sharing that is another joyful experience for
Mhm.
for both of you.
Mhm.
That because then they're kind of sharing in what you've been able to do,
Right.
and
Mhm.
that's also another area that can sustain them,
Mhm.
having, being able to share those experiences and those adventures, so. But
Yeah.
what I mean, there's another thing that has been on my mind for a few years now, and I keep telling myself that I must do this, and I know the reasons why I keep putting it off. I know the reasons because, you know, when I start getting this project going, I'm in my own head, I'm putting a time scale on the eventualities. But one thing is, I am going to get Mum to do like an interview and tell me her life, get her. She's told
Yeah.
us all these stories of her life and everything, and I'm determined
Yeah.
when I can stop being so worried about what it may mean for the future, when
Mhm.
she's not physically here to tell me those stories
Right.
herself,
Right.
is to actually get them written down,
Yeah. Yeah.
get them recorded and
Yep.
then write them down,
Yep.
going through all the old photographs. And that,
Yep.
it's a good thing to do if we can be brave enough to do it.
Well, I did do that. We used to have a show called Elder Hour,
Hmm.
and we were going to interview elders across the gamut on the show. Well, it's kind of hard for me to get to places, and so I thought I have an elder right here. Why am I wanting to go, driving places to go get interviews, um, when I have somebody right here? And so I have probably, I don't know, maybe 8 or so recordings that we broadcasted with Mom. She actually got to be a little bit of a celebrity. With those broadcasts. But it was a way to be able to talk about certain things and ask her questions about stuff. And then we did some recordings that were not aired that she didn't want to share with the world, that she did specifically just for her grandchildren. That was it. She wanted to make sure they had certain information. Because she's not always going to be here to ask questions about it and to give the answers. And so we did those kind of interviews. Those were kind of recordings. But you're right. I mean, I asked my mom once, this is a couple of years ago, because she's seen so many changes in the world at her age, right? What is the one change that you felt that changed the lives of women? She sat there and thought for a little bit, and she said, the typewriter. I said, the typewriter, not airplane travel, not the computer. The typewriter. She goes, yeah. She said, because that was actually women's work. That a lot of women who had no income was able to go in and learn how to type, and they could actually get a job so they could feed their children or put a roof over their head, or help out with family expenses, because they had a job. It changed a lot of women's lives. And I would have never thought of that in a million years. That would have been the answer. Or what it was like to wear makeup at her when she was in her 20s.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. So I understand. And really, it is so worth the time and the effort to sit down and do those recordings. It really is. Make a date. That's what we did. Make a date.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she stopped doing the recordings because she was in so much pain that she didn't want people to hear the pain in her voice. So she started saying no to the recordings. Yeah. That was hard for me to take. And be okay with it. Along these lists of tips of things, and I'm looking at the time. I know that we're over time. It's about 10 after. But I wanted to get through at least one of these. It says, figure out what you're really expecting from your siblings. What do you really want them to do? Do you want them to do respite a day or a week? Do you want financial support? What is it that you're really wanting them to do? And I don't know if many people, because, it's so hard. That was the one thing I had to learn, is how to ask for help. Because I think I can do it all, and it's just easier if I just do it.
Yeah, I think I'm still there.
Yeah, it says some caregivers really don't want help or can't rely on help from siblings who are undependable or unavailable. And if that's the situation, admit it to yourself and accept that you're on your own. And I think we've done that. We've done that. And then the harder part, and I think we're going to save the next piece of that discussion maybe for next month, is money, finances, and how those change. You don't want to talk about that, do you?
Yeah, that's always an oddball topic in some respects, because in my own particular situation, we muddle through, and I'm able to put enough away to get a trip over to the States. I have been over the trip over to the States the past few years, once a year. So I've been able to do that. Money for me is one of those things where if I could be independently wealthy, that would be great.
Yeah.
But as it stands, we kind of muddle through, and money I don't really think about it too much. I should, but I don't. I kind of let it take care of itself. Have we got enough for this? Yes. Okay, then. Have we got enough for that? Not really. Well, then it'll either wait or we won't do it. It's it doesn't really. As long as Mum's feeling okay, as long as I'm doing okay, as long as I can just have a break, and everything's okay.
Yeah. Well, Minnie is saying in the chat is money is energy. And in feng shui standards, money is a representation of our energy. And yeah, it's not an easy discussion to have because my mom doesn't have a lot of money, and in order to have the kind of care that I would like to see her have, she would need a lot of money.
It's the
If you
same.
can, I mean, here in the States, if you can afford a really good private facility, chances are you're paying a lot of money for it, for one. And it's typically nicer, typically. There's still some issues with that, but aesthetically they're nicer, the staff is better paid, those kinds of things. For people who don't have a lot of money, they end up in a county facility, and it's not all county facilities are bad, but it's been in my experience that they haven't been great. And that's the kind of facility that my mom can afford. And I know that had I not made the offer to have my mom here, that if it were up to my brother, she probably would have been in a nursing home. I've already put one parent in a nursing home, and it was I was an emotional basket case. My dad had such medical needs that was the safest place for him, but it was still hard. And so having my mom there it has been to me, that's not an option. Although I have to admit, my good friend, my sister Minnie, when she was here in October, she said, why don't we reframe that, and that, manifesting a really good place. If it should come to that there's going to be this wonderful place for Mom, if it would come to that, rather than, putting all of my thoughts and energy into, she can't go there because it's horrible. Mm-hmm. And my mom does have a fear. She has a fear about ending up in a place like that and being vulnerable. So Minnie helped me with that, to look at it differently, that not just necessarily see it through my mom's eyes, but to see it in a way that there's other possibilities. And it's not like she's going to go there today or tomorrow, but in the event that she would need to, that we could manifest something much nicer.
Yeah, I mean, the situation is pretty much the same over here. If you've got plenty of money, then you could get somewhere nice. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you are still paying a lot of money for somewhere that might not be so good. There are care packages that you can have people coming in once, twice, 3 times a day. Just for the sake of argument, I wasn't here, Mum could get that, but even that situation is not ideal, because the people the care system that we've got under that, the staff are so run off their feet. They've got 15 minutes to take care of somebody on that particular visit. Mm-hmm. And I honestly do not envy them. I mean, they do get a lot of bad press. Mm-hmm. And it's not the staff's fault. They're doing the best that they can. And, they are really, in many ways, hurt by it themselves, because they can't do what they know needs to be done. Right. Either way, none of those are an option, really, because we haven't got the finances for any of it. So, but equally, Mum doesn't want to go anywhere, and I don't want her to either. Mm-hmm. Would she get to a point where it was necessary? There is always that possibility. I'm not saying it's definite. Mm-hmm. It's always a possibility. And locally, I'm not aware of anywhere where I would want her to be. I might be doing some of them a disservice, because I haven't experienced going to them. Mm-hmm. because I just don't need to. I don't need to. I don't want to. Things
Mhm.
are not necessary, you
Yeah.
know.
Well,
Uh,
here in the States, we do have another option, and we're working toward that. I still need to I still need to make the time, carve out the time to be able to sit down and really put this together. Is there's a it's associated with the hospital, and it's through the hospice unit. It's called Palliative Care,
hmm
and it is between assisted living and nursing home facility, but the person is like our moms living here at home.
Yeah.
And so there's a physician's assistant nurse who comes as regularly as mom needs her. Right now, she's coming every 3 months or so. Um, and she comes and takes her vitals and talks to her and watches her for those indicators of the decline, right? And so, and she checks on, on things like, you guys need anything, do you need more equipment, or, those kinds of things. One time mom ran out of pain pills because I didn't know she was so low. And this was like last year, I think it was. And I ended up calling the palliative nurse on a weekend saying, okay, she doesn't have any. And so the nurse took care of it. And all I had to do was go pick up the prescription. And so, it's really nice to have that kind of support in place. And along with that, they have the paperwork set up because, mom's medical care directive, I know what she wants. It's in her will. She's got, it's at the hospital. But my brothers don't know. Her grandchildren, if they would take care of her, which they don't know. And so what the palliative have is this yellow sheet of paper that they have all the directives and everything written down on it, signed by the doctor. And we put it up on the refrigerator. So if 911 is called and the EMTs walk in, that's the first thing they look for.
Mm-hmm.
Is this yellow piece of paper that will give them instructions of what needs to be done or not done. And so, and that's been helpful. That's been helpful. The charge for the nurse comes through, is billed to mom's health and her insurance in Medicare. And so we're kind of heading into that direction of having to look at the Medicaid. Mm-hmm. Because what I need to be able to do for Star Nations, I need to have some time when I'm actually going to need to be gone at some point for a few days at a time. And so if my brothers can't cover it, I need to find somebody who can. And so we have to kind of go in that direction. And we've never been there before. So it's brand new territory.
Scary.
Scary. So anyway, we can always talk a little bit more about that on our next go round, or we'll take a look at Holly's list again and see if there's something that you do. It depends. If Tracy can join us, or someone who can talk about the empathic piece. Mm-hmm. But Tracy is also a good resource because she also cares for people who are disabled or elderly, right?
Yeah.
And so she's a professional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it would be nice to have her input. So at some point when we cover that, hopefully Tracy will be with us to do that. What else would you like to add before we say good afternoon or good evening?
Well, I think the key point for me is, regardless of all the things that other people are or possibly are not doing, that regardless of how difficult things can get
Mm-hmm.
from time to time. The one thing for anybody who is in the same position is to just know that you are tough enough and strong enough to carry on regardless of anything else. Doesn't matter what kind of help you are or not getting. You really need to be fully capable of believing in your own ability, because if you couldn't do this, you wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. It's accepting it. Making the decision that this is what I'm doing.
This is what I am doing.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I am going to do it.
Yep.
And all the articles in the world aren't going to help until you can fully, completely accept that this is what life is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
For however long it may be. This is it.
Yeah.
But also, but that doesn't mean to say that it's a bad thing, that it is stressful and difficult and all those negative things, but it's joyfully wonderful. It's better than all of those. The benefits are so much greater than all the negatives.
Yes.
10 times over.
Yeah.
They really are. And what you learn from it, you can carry and take on through you for the rest of your life. And so not just you benefit, but so many other people benefit from your experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is the real key thing to remember.
That's true. That's true. Because we can get lost in the story of the negative.
Yeah.
We can get lost in that narrative if we choose to. And we have to work through our way through it. I'm not saying that this is I'm not painting a fluffy pink cloud existence. But there isn't once there's an acceptance and you work your way through it, it's like anything else. You're given the opportunity to make decisions and work through and heal and do what you need to get done in order to be in a good, grounded, balanced position.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And once you make the decision to do it, you try to stay as positive as you can. The universe does line up to help you. You might not look like what you thought it was going to be.
It never looks like what you thought it was going to be.
So
there's always some surprises on the road.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And as the rule around here is that if you can have one really good hearty laugh a day, it's good for you. It's a good thing. And there's also, you have to feel the feelings. Don't repress them. Don't push them away.
It's okay to have a bad day.
Yes.
Don't feel guilty about it. No. You are allowed. You're human. Mm-hmm. So.
Yep. And sometimes what you need to do is give yourself a timeout and go take a nap.
Yeah.
Always makes it better. Well, thank you, Mervyn, for taking the time to do this with me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So with that, everybody, thank you for being with us this evening, as we're talking about caring for elderly parents. We'll take a look at the month of March, and it's working out that it's the third Sunday of the month to have this special show. So hopefully you'll join us next month for another aspect of caring for elderly parents. And with that, have a good week. Great rest of the weekend, Sunday night. And we'll see you next time.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.